Constructicons form Devastator, the most powerful robot. We should rule. Constructicons, merge for the kill!
Hello, Bots and Books fans, this is Scorp1701, and welcome to Part 5 of our 7-part Transformers Studio Series Constructicons series. Yes, and if you've been watching the entire series, you will know that we are taking a look at the brand new Constructicons put out by Hasbro in the Studio Series line, the likes that we have not gotten since Combiner Wars back a few years ago. And these are turning out to be some great Constructicons. We have already took a look at Scrapper, Bone Crusher, Hook, and Long Haul. And tonight we are going to be taking a look at Scavenger. And what's really funny about Scavenger is the way they put these Constructicons out. They would just put them out here and there. And Scavenger here was the last Constructicon that I had to find until I could complete my set. I spent months looking for him. A lot of people had him right off the bat. It took me a little longer. But anyway, here he is. And taking a look at the packaging, he is in the newly designed Studio Series packaging. You have a nice big box. You have More Than Meets the Eye 4 of 5. Yes, I know this is video 5, so this isn't really the end. They did it where Long Haul and Hook were combined as one. So that was 3, but I broke them up, so the more the merrier, I always say. Anyway, coming down, 15-step conversion, 8+. You can see Scavenger in the box there. Nice picture of Scavenger in his robot mode, and in his vehicle mode, you have Transformers Studio Series, Transformers the movie logo here, Constructicon Scavenger. You have Hasbro down at the bottom. On the top of the box, you have Takara Tomy, and underneath this little tab, you have Transformers the movie logo and Scavenger again. On the left side of the box, you have Devastator. You have 4 of 5, Transformers Studio Series, Transformers the movie logo again. Coming to the right side of the box, you just have a carryover of Scavenger's shoulder. You have an Autobot symbol there. You have Transformers Studio Series Deluxe Class. On the bottom of the box, you have some credits for the box, and that is pretty neat. Finally, coming to the back of the box, where you have at the very top a nice picture of Transformers the movie where Devastator is devastating the Dinobots. You have a brief read-up of Scavenger. You can pause the video, read that to your heart's content, but we must be zooming out and onward. On the back, you see a nice product shot of Scavenger in his robot mode and in his vehicle mode again. Coming down 4 of 5, More Than Meets the Eye authentic symbol, more credits for the box, and a barcode. And scrolling in on that barcode, you can take a quick look at that if it gets into focus. And that may help you find this guy on the shelf. It would have definitely helped me. And that is going to be it for the packaging of Scavenger. I don't want to see Scavenger in the packaging. I know you don't. So let's get him out and see if he was worth looking for. And before we can start this review, there is a little bit of assembly required right out of the box. So when you get him out of the box, his shovel piece is not going to be attached, so you'll basically just have to turn him around, find this little tab right here, and just stick that on like such. Uh-oh, a little more difficult than I thought, eh? So it'll just pop into place right like that. Then fold it down and bring the shovel up right behind his head, and there you go. He is ready to be reviewed. So, let's begin. And here we have Scavenger out of the packaging. And out of the packaging, he stands approximately 6 inches tall. He comes with a nice set of instructions that will help you transform him from a robot to a vehicle and back again. He comes with his laser pistol, which we'll take a look at in just a moment. But first off, I want to take a look at this scavenging bot himself. And coming in on Scavenger's head sculpt. Now, I always thought that Scavenger had the strangest head sculpt. Now, the black part around his head, the helmet type dealie, isn't that strange. It is nice. You got the red visor. I love that. But the strangeness comes down to his mouth plate. And it's done in a nice silver. And the design is always baffled me. It is just a square. Most of the Transformers have a nice plate that goes all the way around and kind of comes up at a point in the middle. But Scavenger, he just has a square. And I always thought it might be some sort of lazy attempt to make a different type of faceplate by the animators. Because, oh, let's just give him a square. That just looks a little strange to me. And on the side, you can see, you know, the face kind of goes up a little bit. You got some nice silver there, and on the other side, and then the back of the head is just black, and you got some line work, not too much detail in there, but anyway, that is going to be his head. Let's scroll out a little bit because we can't really see anything else. And coming down to his chest and forearm section, you do have a little bit of detail in the chest that is molded in there. So you got some panels here and some line work that you could pick out and paint if you were so inclined. But we did not get that with him. His chest is kind of a panel itself. We've got some nice line work. It's a pretty silver, and you got a Decepticon symbol right here. It's a little small for my liking, but it is what it is. Some more detail here going down to his midsection, which you can't see until I move the camera back and down, and it is a purple plastic. And this is another thing that's always bothered me about Scavengers. Like, why is his midsection and legs purple? But that, I guess, set him apart from the other Constructicons. So as you can see, his midsection here is purple, coming down to some treads, which are his legs and feet. And yeah, I don't really know why they went with this coloring, because it really sticks out like a sore thumb when you get to the Devastator mode, but we'll see that a little later. Coming to the side, like Bone Crusher, you do got a little silver here for his thigh and down here for the feet, so that is neat. Coming to the back, not much detail here. In robot mode, you do see his shovel compacted up on his back. You do get some molded detail here in the back of his shoulders. I don't know why, because you're not really going to be able to see that. And coming back around to his sides, that is good. Now, interesting thing to note, these hands are painted green, because if you look into the inside, they are black. So somebody painted some black hands green. I guess they went through and said, oh, wait, no, he needs green hands to be cartoon accurate. And whoever did that, I'm glad they did, because I love the way he looks. Very G1 from the cartoon, and that is always going to be my favorite look. Alright, moving on. And for Scavenger's articulation, starting at the head can go around 360 degrees. It is on a hinge, so the hinge will go forward a little bit and then back to your starting spot. There is no wiggle waggle in the sides. Coming to the shoulders can come up from the body and then back down. They can go around 360 degrees, and that is nice. If you were so inclined, you could use these side panels as kind of a butterfly, because they will unhook and then go back and forth. But I don't know, it's kind of a preference kind of thing if you want to say that that is a shoulder butterfly or you're just breaking your mold. Anyway, coming down to the elbow bend, you do get a nice 90-degree elbow bend there, and that is built into a 360-degree forearm rotation, and that will bring us to the painted black hands, and they are hinged, and they will go in and then back out only, and that's due to transformation. There is no rotation other than that. Coming to the center of the body, there is no waist rotation to speak of. There is no ab crunch. It is just a solid piece. Now, if you want to utilize this joint like we have been in the past and move that as an ab crunch going down and back, you can. But when you move this too much, you can see it kind of slides out of spot because that's used for transformation. And we'll get there, and it's kind of weird. Coming to the legs can come up a long way, well over 90 degrees forward, way over 90 degrees backward, and then out to the side about 90 degrees, if not a little more. So that is neat. You do have thigh rotation, 360 degrees there. Coming to a hidden knee bend, which will give you 90 degrees. I like that. And finally, coming down to the foot, you're going to have two parts to this foot. You have the front part of the toe, which will hinge down and then back up. You do have the back part of the heel, which will hinge down and back up. And then together they will work in unison to rock to the inside like such. And that is pretty cool. And that is going to be Scavenger's articulation. So you have some stuff that you can use and some stuff you don't want to use. It's up to you. There's some stuff you can do and some stuff you can't. I don't think it's too bad. All right, moving on. And for Scavenger's one accessory, he comes with his laser pistol, and it is a very nicely done laser pistol. It is a different sculpt and mold as the others. It's still done in that nice black plastic, but now you have this interesting scope up here, and you have your handle and your barrel, and on the other side, you have kind of a side mag coming out. So that is really cool, and you can bring Scavenger out, put it in his hand, and he can start shooting Autobots or whoever he wants to shoot at, like little humans, human germ, and all this other stuff. All right, and that is going to be Scavenger's accessory. Moving on. And for comparison, here you have Scavenger with the rest of the Constructicons that we've looked at so far. And had the Constructicons been a normal combiner team, this would have been the complete set. But unfortunately, there are 6 Constructicons instead of 5, and we still have one more to go. But right now, this is still a beautiful set of Transformers. You have Scavenger, Hook, Scrapper, Bone Crusher, and Long Haul, and they look really good. This team definitely shaping up. One more to go, but this is awesome. All right. And for comparison, here you have Scavenger with the Netflix Megatron, the Earthrise Starscream, the Legacy Dead End, and the Netflix Soundwave. And these are a bunch of great Decepticons. They look really good together. Definitely like the combiner bots together. You get the arm bros there, and I think that's really neat. And this has been your comparison with some other Decepticons. And for an Autobot comparison, here you have Scavenger with the Dramatic Capture Optimus Prime, the Earthrise Grapple, the Earthrise Hoist, and Studio Series Bumblebee. And I love this comparison because it harkens back to that cool episode, The Master Builders from Season 2, where the Constructicons and Grapple and Hoist got together to build a power tower, and that was a good and a bad thing. It was a great episode, one of my favorites, and I love that we can now reenact that scene. But anyway, that is your comparison with some Autobots. And for comparison, here you have the Studio Series Scavenger with the Combiner Wars Scavenger. And these things are pretty much the same sculpt and mold. There are a few differences in the molding, but for the most part, it looks identical with the heads and the little sections cut out on the shoulders right here. And the Combiner Wars has a few more paint apps, which I like, with the reds and the golds, and then down here on the belt you got the silver and the red. But yeah, they look very, very comparable. It's not exactly a rip-off because there are differences in the molds, but then again, Hasbro can't really rip off themselves, can they? But anyway, these look really great. All right, and that is going to be your comparisons. Moving on. and full transformation. Now, please understand, I don't necessarily go by how the instructions say, but by the end of the segment, we get to where we need to be. All right, so first of all, what I like to do with Scavenger is close off his feet like such on both sides. Then working my way up, I like to fold in these hands like such. And then, since we're folding everything in, let's go ahead and fold his head in. Move this chest panel down, fold his head down, and then put this back into place. Alright, from here, go to the back. I like to take this little shovel out and move it forward, and then move this cab section out from the side and just put it down like that. Alright, and so now what we're going to do is we're going to grab the shoulders from this point right here, and we are going to fold them up, and they will tab into place with this tab and this port. So that should be easy enough to do. There you go. And then on the other side. Okay, so once that is all in place, we are going to extend the arms by grabbing this upper part and pushing it down, and it will fold down, and there is a tab at the end here that will tab into the end of this green piece here. So we'll do that real quick. For some reason on mine, this is kind of finicky, and it doesn't like to fall into place even though it's right there. Okay, that's one. Alright, and we are going to do it again on this side. Take the top part and pull it up and then down, and it will fold all the way to the end, and then you have your tab here and then your port on the bottom here. So that will tab into place like such. Alright, make sure everything is straightened out, and now we can move the cab over and tab it into place, and make sure this section is flush. So sometimes it doesn't like to go in all the way, so you might need to put a little pressure there until you can hear the snap. Okay, and now what we need to do is bring the legs around, and that's very simple. So you'll basically just bring the legs around, and you'll know you do it right because obviously you have these tabs that are sticking out here. The only way that the legs can sit right is if you have this open section here. So you don't have to really orientate the legs any different way. It will just go into place like such. And then you have a tab here and a port over here that will go into each other. And basically just do the same thing again. Pull it out, and you got your tab and your port system like that. Put it together. Here's some snapping, and here is Scavenger in his excavator mode, and that is a cute, simple little transform. Let me make sure I get him all squozen together correctly, and I will be right back so we can take a look at him. And here we have Scavenger in his excavator mode, and it is a pretty nice little excavator mode. It has everything that you would expect when you're dealing with an excavator, namely this nice long shovel part that can move down and pick up some dirt. I like that. The bucket does go up and down. You do have this nice hinge for the first part of the arm. That is good. And then it does rotate 360 degrees on this articulated point, and then the final piece takes it down, or you can actually rock it back if you want to have it at rest. So that is pretty cool. Got a nice little cab section here with some purple windows, a nice Decepticon symbol up here at the top. A little small, but it's still better than Scrappers. In the front of the vehicle, you don't have much detail here. You do got the nice purple treads, and on each of the treads you have some nice silver at the front and some silver at the back, and some tread detail in between. That is neat. Nice paneling on the sides. Coming to the back, nothing really picked out here. You just got the treads and a little bit of detail here, but nothing that would say, hey, these are like tail lights or blinkers or anything like that. And the other side is pretty much the same. Paneling details. Coming to the bottom, you do not have any robot junk, so that's good. It looks like a regular vehicle type with the treads. Now, what's solely missing on this is wheels. There's no wheels on this thing. There's no center wheel and there's no wheels on the treads, so it actually doesn't roll. You're just going to have to like slide it around. So that is becoming a common thing with the Constructicons, I guess, not putting wheels on them, but well, it's a tread, so it's understood that these are actually the wheels, but I don't know. That's not really too much to make me hate it. I think it's pretty good and compact, so I'm happy with it. Alright, and that is what Scavenger is going to look like and his functionality. Moving on. And for comparison, here you have Scavenger with the rest of the Studio Series Constructicons. You got Scrapper, and that is really cool. Bone Crusher, and they are about the same because they're both arms, and you would expect them to be roughly the same size. And then you have Hook. Hook is there, and that is nice, and they can kind of get their little stretchy things going on. Let's see how that works, and who's the longer here? Well, obviously I think Hook would be, because if you start like Scavenger, you'd have to start way back here, so yeah. But that's still pretty neat that they can both reach up like that. And then here he is with Long Haul, and that's not much of a comparison. Long hauls are really big, and it would stomp the crap out of Scavenger. You can ride in the back of him, maybe. Yeah, that's not bad. Alright, and that is going to be your comparisons. Just one more, and we will have the entire set of Studio Series Constructicons, and I can't wait. I just don't know where I'm going to put Mixmaster. But we'll figure that out later. And for comparison with some other Decepticons, here he is with Megatron in his tank mode. And there's not really much comparison there. You got a military tank versus a little Constructicon excavator. So yeah, I think Megatron would pretty much take Scavenger. And then here he is with Dead End. And this is an interesting comparison. Dead End is a bit longer only because the way that Scavenger transforms, and he has to fold upward instead of outward. So it's okay, I guess. And then here you have him with Starscream. And yeah, it's a silly comparison, but hey, Starscream looks really good. That is very, very cool. Alright, so that is going to be Scavenger with some Decepticons. And if you have Decepticons, you're definitely going to have Autobots. So here Scavenger is with Prime, and he's a little taller in the back than Prime, obviously not in the front, but lengthwise with his hook extended, yeah, he can outreach Prime. That's kind of cheating though. And here he is with Grapple, and that is a pretty neat comparison. They got the grabby things again like Hook, so let's see. And yeah, obviously the same thing like with Hook. Scavenger's kind of be a little shorter if we put back here at the base, so yeah, it's okay. But that is neat. And then here he is with Hoist, and they are pretty comparable, I think, lengthwise. Obviously, whenever it comes to any type of length, Scavenger's going to fall up short because he folds in on himself and not out, like I said earlier. So, it looks alright. And here he is with Bumblebee, who he actually might be longer than. Yep, he beats out Bumblebee. So, yay, be proud, Scavenger. You could beat out the little scout in your length. Alright, that's kind of a silly thing. But anyway, that is going to be your comparisons with the Autobots. Alright. And finally, for comparison, here you have the Studio Series Scavenger with the Combiner Wars Scavenger. And all through the series, we have said that the Combiner Wars is going to severely outmatch the Studio Series when it comes to height, and this is no exception here. So you can see that the Scavenger for the Studio Series definitely falls up short in the size department, but the articulation is pretty much the same with these two, which is surprising because the Combiner Wars was notorious about not being able to articulate things like hooks crane. But, well, actually this one doesn't have the bucket mobility like this one does, so that one can come in, this one doesn't move, and then this one has it's got 360 degrees of rotation there, so yeah, that is pretty comparable, and they look pretty much the same with the cab here and the treads being purple, and I still hate that. And in the back, you do got some stuff picked out on the Combiner Wars that you don't have on the Studio Series on the side, and then the bottom. This one actually has wheels, so you have wheels here and wheels in the treads, so that gives the Combiner Wars an extra point because it can actually roll as opposed to sliding around. So anyway, that is going to be your comparison between the two in their vehicle modes, and it's okay, I guess. Alright, moving on. And we have one more piece of transformation to take care of before we go, and that is to turn Scavenger into his combined mode. And it is going to be very similar to Bone Crushers in certain respects, so let's get started. Alright, so the first thing we want to do is compact Scavenger's shovel all the way down like such, and then we want to pull out the legs like such, and then coming around to the back, this middle section is going to come out and around like such, and that is really neat. To go ahead and fold this purple part up like that, and then what we are going to do is just turn this section here around about 80 degrees, so you got your little port down here, and finally bring the tracks down, get them back in position, and this is the part that's similar to Bone Crushers. You'll see your two little tabs sticking out here, and so we'll bring this down as a little panel, and then this part of the foot will curve back in, and then you'll have your two tabs here, and then your two ports in the foot, and you will combine those and get a nice secure feeling. They'll go right in there. Alright, and from here all we have to do is bring in Devastator's right arm, and if you don't have this arm, that's okay. It comes with hook and long haul, so you don't have to worry about Scavenger not having parts. So when you get this out, look for your rectangular tab here and your circular tab, and then you'll line that up with this rectangular port and the circular port, and that will slide on really nicely. And here you have Scavenger in his right arm mode, and that is really neat. Again, very huge, massive arm. It can go all the way around 360 degrees, but we'll get into that when we get to Devastator. So yeah, very cool. Alright, moving on. And this has been the Transformers Studio Series Constructicons Scavenger. And I think Scavenger has always been kind of the oddball Constructicon out. I mean, it's not that he's completely different. He does have the same colorings and motifs. He has the black helmety look, but that square on his mouth and his purple legs always bothered me. I don't know what it is. I guess it may be my OCD kicking in, and that, like, well, those purple legs just stick out. That's crazy, and I've never seen a mouthpiece like that. But for the most part, he was fun and he was true to the G1 cartoon. His sculpt and mold look really good. I think his colors are appropriate. I don't understand why they painted the hands instead of just used green plastic there, but whatever the reason, I guess it may have been a manufacturing error. I think there's also some black on the sides too that was painted green. But as long as it's green, it looks fine to me. I don't have an issue with that. The silver on the chest is beautiful. The silver on his face is nice. Love the red for the visor. Other than that, paint apps are kind of sparse until you get to vehicle mode, and then you got the purple windows of the vehicle and then the little bit of silver on the treads. It still looks alright. The articulation is good. None of these Constructicons seem to have waist articulation, which is strange, but it is what it is. Scavenger can pretty much move however you want him to move, and I do like the fact that in his vehicle mode, his steam shovel moves around a lot. That is a really neat little feature that you can play with. And he comes with a gun. Definitely love that. All the Transformers should have their guns. Maybe Hasbro has learned over the years. As for transformation, it was very simple, very easy, intuitive, and it reminded me of the Combiner Wars a lot. I'm not going to complain about non-originality engineering when it comes to the transforms of these guys. And that's pretty much it for the review. It's Scavenger. He's an excavator. He's not very exciting in my opinion. Again, like I said, I always thought he was kind of the oddball out. But he has a place on the team. And if you are looking for him to give him a place in your collection, you may be able to find him on the shelves right now. And he will go anywhere between $25 to $30. I say that because it took me forever to find this guy. Everywhere I went, the shelves were full of the 2-pack, Scrapper, Bone Crusher, Mix Master. I could not find a Scavenger to save my life. And then one night I went into a Walmart. I wasn't even looking for toys. I think I was shopping with Queen Bravo, and I decided to look down this aisle that wasn't even a main toy aisle. And there he was, just sticking on the top shelf, and I'm like, oh my gosh! Yeah, I kind of screamed like a girl. Like, this is the last one I needed. I texted some friends. I'm like, look, I found him. But hopefully you guys will have more luck than I did finding Scavenger. So, happy hunting. And that's it, guys. That is going to wrap up part 5 of our 7-part series. I hope you enjoyed the review. Come back next time when we take a look at Mix Master. But until then, have a great night and keep playing.
Constructicons unite!